Let's talk about Greenland. You know, that huge, icy island that for a little while became the most talked about piece of real estate on the entire planet. And believe me, this story isn't about the incredible scenery. It's about who wanted to buy it, and more importantly, why. Okay, to really get how wild this whole story is, let's start with a number 56,000. That's it. That is the entire population of Greenland. You could literally fit every single resident into a big football stadium and still have plenty of seats left over. Now, try to picture those 56,000 people living on a piece of land that is 3 times the size of Texas. We're talking about the world's largest island, this massive, remote place that's almost completely covered by one single gigantic ice sheet. The scale is it's almost impossible to wrap your head around. And then this happened. This statement came from former U.S. President Donald Trump. And listen carefully. He didn't just say the U.S. wants Greenland. He said the U.S. needs it. So that's the real question here, isn't it? Why? What could possibly make this sparsely populated, frozen island so vital? Well, the first part of the answer has absolutely nothing to do with what's under the ice. It has everything to do with where Greenland is on the map. It really is all about location, 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 and how the Arctic is fast becoming the world's new geopolitical high ground. You see, it all comes down to this military concept called the GIUK gap. Now, this is not a new idea. Ever since World War II, controlling this corridor, this choke point between Greenland, Iceland, and the UK, has been absolutely essential for controlling the North Atlantic. It's basically the front door for any submarines or military ships trying to get from the Arctic out into the rest of the world. But here's the thing. That old strategic map is being completely redrawn because the planet itself is changing. The Arctic sea ice is vanishing. We're talking about a 27% drop in summer ice compared to the long-term average. The Arctic is quite literally opening up. What used to be a frozen, impassable barrier is turning into a navigable ocean. And this is creating a totally new kind of geopolitical battlefield. You know, melting ice means new, much shorter shipping routes are opening up. It means getting to untapped resources is suddenly possible. And for the US, it means there's a huge need to push back against growing Russian and Chinese influence in a region where America already has a critical military base, the Pituffik Space Base, which houses crucial early warning radar systems. But that strategic location, that's really only half the story. The other reason for all this interest, the one that's a lot more tangible, is believed to be buried deep beneath all that ice. We are talking about a potential treasure trove of critical minerals. So take rare earth elements, for example. You know, the minerals that are vital for basically everything, from your smartphone to advanced military technology. Now, look, Greenland's potential reserves are tiny compared to China's massive, proven ones, but it represents something incredibly valuable, a source that isn't China, which could help break a dependency that makes a lot of Western governments very, very nervous. But here comes the reality check. Okay, so Greenland might hold 25 of the 34 minerals that you consider as critical. That's great, but actually getting them out of the ground, that's a whole other story. The climate is brutal, there's almost no infrastructure, and on top of all that, you have major legal roadblocks. Greenland actually banned all new oil and gas exploration back in 2021, and the whole issue of uranium mining is a political minefield. And if you need just one number to really understand the huge gap between all that potential and the current reality, it's this one, 2. That's it. That is the total number of operational mines in all of Greenland right now. So yeah, that treasure chest is a long, long way from being unlocked. So on one hand, you've got these really powerful strategic and economic reasons pushing the US. But on the other, all those motivations are crashing right into a wall of unmovable obstacles. It's time to talk about the hard no. Which brings us right to the big question. With so much apparently at stake, could the United States actually pull this off? I mean, can a country just buy another country's territory in the 21st century? The answer is a clear, resounding no. And it's a no that comes in 4 different layers. First, international law is crystal clear. Greenland is part of the Kingdom of Denmark. Second, Greenland is self-governing, and its people have the right to decide their own future. Third, the political will just isn't there. I mean, both governments in Denmark and Greenland flatly rejected the idea. And finally, there's the NATO alliance. The idea of the US just taking territory from a key ally, it's unthinkable. It would probably shatter the alliance itself. So, if a sale is completely impossible, what does this whole episode really tell us? Well, it points directly to the Arctic's next chapter, and it reveals what the real stakes of this whole geopolitical game really are. When you boil it all down, it's a fundamental conflict. On one side, you've got these powerful strategic incentives, right? Military control, access to minerals, countering your rivals in a newly opened Arctic. But on the other side, you have these immovable realities: international law, the democratic will of the people who actually live there, not to mention the immense cost and the overwhelming practical challenges. So, while the idea of buying Greenland might be totally off the table, the forces that were driving that idea, they're only getting stronger. The Arctic is opening up for business, for shipping, and for great power competition. So the real question this whole thing leaves us with is this: as the ice keeps receding, what does the future really hold for the far north?